We'll go ahead and get started. Our utility rate stakeholders meeting, December 2nd at 5:30 p.m. We got a quite aggressive agenda here to go over, and again, we appreciate your guys' time and we value it very much. So the first thing I wanted to jump down real quick to item number 4, if you don't mind, and then we'll jump into the other items in a moment. Good news. The good news is that I think I remember mentioning to the group here that we had submitted pre-applications to the State Revolving Loan Fund, which is the California Department of Public Health, and in order to ask for some grant funding and or low interest loans. And so I got notification last week where they invited us to go ahead and apply and submit for funding. So we're thrilled about that because, as you know, we are considered a disadvantaged community, which is nice. And so this opens the door for grants and loans and stuff like that. We put in, we wanted to put in for as much as we could. So I believe it was close to $8 million of projects that we threw in there. All of them are actually, it's a competitive basis. So if we can get half of that money, I mean, we're going to go for everything, but if we can get whatever we can get, we're going to be really happy. So we have to submit basically a letter of intent that we are going to submit, and we've got to do that by the end of this year, so December 23rd. And then the applications are due in late March. So the team here is going to work on putting together the best projects that we think that can actually land some funding. Okay, so our most critical needs, and we'll talk a little bit about those because that's going to be outlined today. So I just wanted to share that bit of good news, and we'll go from there. Any questions before we move on to?
I've got one.
Yeah.
I've got, actually, where's our Public Works Director?
Our current Public Works Director right now is on administrative leave, and so he's not here this evening.
Will he be coming back?
It's a personnel matter, so I can't cover any of that at this point. Thank you for asking. So moving along to the other item, we have any other questions related to the funding? No?
So this funding, I mean, they invited us, invited you to submit for funding, right?
Yeah.
So the possibility is
Yeah, if you don't get invited.
It depends.
Yeah.
If you don't get invited, you're definitely not in the running. The fact that you're invited.
See, you never want to be in this position, but since we are, the fact that we have, we have some non-compliance issues with some of our wells, that of course gives us a higher chance of getting money. And so that's
more needy.
And just to add, this is the same money that the mayor and I and our city manager went to DC back in spring.
Yeah.
And the money was tied up, so we kind of raised a stink with the EPA and everybody else. We've been fighting this ever since. So this is the money that we were.
That's that
Yeah,
$455 million.
Yeah.
This is that money we were talking about. And we did have, Congressman Costa and our state senator and everybody's writing their support. So we're doing everything possible, so.
Yeah, Gabriel's correct. We met with not just our local congressional representatives, but other congressmen from different places that represent the state of California, because we knew that through some research that there was money. There was $455 million from EPA, and the state of California was not basically moving fast enough in getting that money out that was designated for safe drinking water. So after our visit, the mayor and the mayor pro tem, we continued to put pressure, and we brought it up to the local folks here. And if you noticed, it's been in the paper a few times now.
Yeah, we made sure that they got in the paper. This just to get everybody wake up on this one.
Yeah, be aware of what's going on.
So in terms of other funding sources, I mentioned a little bit about this also the last meeting, and you know, we've adopted a council, and thank you for those who commented at the council meeting. The council went ahead and formally adopted the IRWIN plan. So again, that also puts us in a position to you know, put together some projects, and I'll be working with our team again to package the best projects moving forward for funding related to infrastructure, you know, water and wastewater related. Okay, so now I would like to go back up to item number 1, which is our capital improvement plan. Option A and B will these are kind of going to go hand in hand. And I'd like to turn it over to Alfonso Enriquez, who put together a little PowerPoint presentation, and please ask all the questions you might you have, and I'll be more than happy to respond.
So at the end of the PowerPoint, there's some Excel, some spreadsheets, some tables. The first 2 ones are called option A, and the second 2 ones are called option B. Those are summarized on these spreadsheets anyway, but on these slides anyway. But you have the full version on the back as well. This is sort of a follow-up to what we talked about last meeting. We went into the problems and what wells and what needed to be done. So what this next step is to put actual numbers and put a table with a with sort of a timetable of how these projects, what options we have for them to be implemented. And we know that resources are limited in the real world.
Share what I failed to mention at the very beginning is the goal of this meeting this evening is to provide recommendations to our elected officials in order to incorporate whatever options we have here, incorporate those to finalize our the numbers necessary to provide the rate consultant to then come up with costs, and that we will then share with you.
So this capital improvement plan is a critical element when for a rate consultant to plug in, because it determines how much money needs to be raised to either pay for improvements or to pay for debt service that is incurred when you do improvements. So we have crafted here 2 options for a capital improvement program. One option A is what I want to call the wish list. Is everything that we need and we want to do in one 5-year capital improvement plan. Now that's very ambitious, and there's a lot of money that can be spent on that option A. So we crafted sort of an option B, which kind of spreads out the capital improvement plan, which are the needs of the system. It spreads it out in 10 years rather than in only 5 years, to sort of reduce some of prioritize whatever improvements are needed first, and whatever improvements are more of aesthetic in nature, then push them back into later years. So that first slide there that has a table with the projects that we're talking about here are well number 8, which is we know that's a project that is undergoing, and the total cost of that project now that it's gone out to bid and with engineering and all that, it's about $2.3 million, that project, and that's going to break construction, or is going to be under construction in the next year. It's expected to be completed by July or August of next year. Then the second project is the well number 12, manganese and arsenic. That was one of those projects that was recommended on the Kennedy-Jenks report, and there is well number 12 has elevated concentrations of manganese and arsenic, but not to the point where it's out of compliance. But it was included on the pre-application for the state that has been invited to approve. So that's why we have it in here, because it's been included on that pre-application. So under option A, as you see, we have that project included. And then option B, we push that project out onto the year 6 to 10, rather than do it immediately, kind of push it out because it's a aesthetic problem right now. Then the next one is well 13 on the table, and that's an arsenic problem. That well is out of compliance, and so in both options A and B, it gives that project a priority, and it does it on the first 5 years. Then it has well 14, which is the TCP well that has an elevated concentration of TCP, and there is a P plus T, I call it a pipeline plus treatment there. So there in both options is also included within the first 5 years. On option B, to sort of push out the expenses onto the later years, I think the option of treatment is pushed onto the third or the fourth year, but we'll talk about that in the following slides. Then there is well 15, which is also an aesthetic issue, manganese, and that well also needs to be addressed. There is either we need to obtain a waiver on that one or treat that well. On the first option, we have option A is a wish list, which we have it within the first 5 years. And the second option, we push it into years 6 to 10, and the reason being because the future of that well is being questioned, whether maybe it would be better to abandon that well and use some of the funds to developer funds to convey that into it or put them into a new well. Then there is well 17, which it addresses capacity and also manganese problems. And that well, it's being funded by CDBG, and that's undergoing, so that well will be completed within the next 5 years. And then there is well 18, which is also it was also included on that drinking water state application, and it addresses capacity as well as arsenic and manganese. And because it was included on that drinking water source application, we have it also onto both into the 5 year CIP plan. Any questions so far? So now, if we move on to the next one, which is option A, that's your 5 year. That's your 5 year CIP under your option A, which is your wish list. Just trying to do everything on the 5 year cycle. You see the well number 8, which is the 2.3 million. It breaks it down into years 13, 14, which is the year that we're in, and years 14, 15. So that well will be completed by next year, by early next year. So there's about 1.9 million spent this year and 0.4 million spent on the following fiscal year. Then there's well number 12, which we have pushed into the next 3 year cycles, because in the next year, that will be when your drinking water state fund applications will be received and they will be approved, and that's when you start incurring into expense. So we moved that into the next 3 year cycle, starting on 14, 15 and finishing in 16, 17. That's when the bulk of construction goes on that well. Then we have well 13, which it needs to be in compliance by 2016. So we moved that into the first 2 years with 150,000 next year, and then the bulk of construction, 1.65 million going into 14, 15. Then we have well 14, which we spread it out in 3 years, being in the year 14, 15 having the pipeline constructed, and then in 15, 16 having the treatment installed at well number 8, so that it can treat both well 8 and well 14. Then we have well 15 also there. Since it's on the option A, we put it on the front end because it's a compliance project that also needs to be addressed. So we put it on the first 2 years of the project. Then there is a project here that I have not mentioned, well 16, which is that exploratory work that we talked about to see if we could bring the arsenic levels down to cut down on the treatment costs, and that's $60,000 that is put into this next year. Then there is well 17, which is undergoing right now. That's funded by CDBG, but CDBG is not going to cover everything because there's treatment included, and the estimated cost is about 1.8.
For well 16, is that
Yeah.
just TCP, is that a loan, or is that, we can?
That's a loan.
Okay.
That would be a loan. The other two TCP projects on top, they're eligible TCP projects, so there wouldn't be loans.
Okay.
That would be a loan. And then the well 17 is CDBG, but CDBG will not cover everything because CDBG is only 1.4. So it's about a $400,000 TCP loan also to that well 17. And because it's a loan, we'll probably spend the free money for the CDBG, and what these tables assume is that the $400,000 loan is the second year expenditure. And then there's well 18, which is drilling a new well, equipping it, and putting treatment on it, and that's about I put in there about 2.8 million there, and it's spread it into the 4-year cycles because we'll have to do a test hole and do the design and the drilling of the well, and then equipping the well, and finally adding treatment to that well. So that's the well 18. So the total in the bottom, yeah.
Yeah, just a question. I know you're putting like well 18 as an example for the. Why are we putting this in? Because we're not sure if we're going to get funded here or not, right?
This is your option A.
Yeah, I understand. So you may want to just kind of point out that to the committee that these funds are not guaranteed at this point.
Right.
So just so when they're looking at this,
You said it was a wish list.
Yeah.
I realize it, but just.
Are you saying, are the numbers going to go into the rates already, or are we going to wait?
No, we will. Right. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I said I think that the plan is to select option A, B, or a hybrid option, and that's what will go into the rates. The funds from the state, they're not guaranteed, but just to give you an idea, the state does not invite people to submit an application if they don't have funds. So the funds are there. Now, you will get funds for those projects if they're fundable projects, and there is actually well 13 is a fundable project.
Yeah.
Because this application was submitted for 4 discrete projects, well 12, 15, 18, and 13. And 2 of those projects, well 13 is a compliance project, that's a fundable, very high.
Yeah.
So that will be funded for sure. Then well 18 is a capacity issue, so
That's the reason I mentioned 18, because I understand the other ones, being a compliance issue, being graded higher. 18 is a capacity. They may, that's what I was trying to point out. So.
The city, as we stand today, we are out of compliance on capacity because we don't meet the maximum day demand per the state requirements. So that's why they also consider it right now a compliance. Right now, they consider it a compliance.
When would we have an answer on the application?
It takes a while.
It takes
Yeah,
You go in March, and
by the summer.
it takes about 9 months, about a year from now.
Mhm.
Yeah, it'll be about a year from now.
And then another year to get a check.
Right.
Oh, it probably will.
About more than that. Yeah.
Probably longer.
I know, but
Yeah, oh, I know. Yeah, it's after our application, CDPH takes a while, those things take a long time.
So the projects that are fundable, they will be funded. The question is whether they will be 100% grant or whether there will be a portion of a grant and a loan.
Yeah.
And because the city is a disadvantaged community, the loan will be 0%. If there is a loan portion, it will be 0% at 20 years. But the principal, that they don't call it grant anymore, they call it principal forgiveness. The amount that is forgiven out of the principal, whether it is 100% forgiven or whether it is somewhere in between, that will depend on the financials of the city. Mm-hmm.
Well, thanks for helping me on the 18th. That was.
Yeah. So, but you're right. I mean, the 18th may or may not be a fundable project at this point. Yeah.
And that's the reason I questioned that one. So.
Mm-hmm. So this CIP again, when the time comes, it could be revisited and put back. So, but the option B, which is the the reduced list to, it uses, again, it pushes out primarily two of the projects, well number 12 and well number 15. It pushes it into that last column that I call 19 to 24, which is a 5-year, the second 5-year cycle. I kind of put it onto that last column. So the well 12, if it's under this option, it will be considered under that second CIP, the second 5-year cycle, as well as the well 15. It will be considered into that second 5-year cycle. And the reason being is because, as we talked on the last meeting, and as the Kenneth Young's report discusses, there's opportunities to go centralized treatment, and after you've had 2 or 3 wells that are treating and producing water that is free of these constituents, now you have an opportunity to blend it with water that is of a lesser quality and still get a good quality product. So the well 15 was talked about being a low producing well, but you still have to spend comparable amount of money to treat it. So maybe an option to just abandon that well and put it towards a centralized facility. But the only difference here on this CIP is the how it distributes the cost is on that well 14. It pushes out the treatment out to year 17, 18. It leaves a gap of 1 year, and the first 2 years will be the treatment and the pipeline, and then to bring down those TCP levels, to bring them down, diluting with the good water from well 18, and then put the treatment in on year 17, 18, when at that time we'll probably have a good idea on the number that the state is considering for the limit on the TCP. And that way you spread out your cost throughout the full 5 year of the CIP. That's kind of what this project does. The rest of it is pretty much the rest of the projects. They're pretty much spread out in the same way, the same sources of funds. So now we're going to move on to the next part of the presentation of the CIP, what is actually what makes sense to decide whether go with the wish list or with the option B, is what is that going to do to your O&M budgets. Because you could go with a very ambitious list, but then every time you add a well or you add treatment onto a well online, then you have costs associated with that, whether it is replacing media or whether it is chemicals or whether it is debt repayment on that well, on that equipment. So that's kind of what the next section goes over, and it presents on those, is in one page, this option CIP impacts to O&M budgets. And they're both of them, option A and option B, they're included in there. And I don't want to lose you with all these numbers, but the bottom line of each section, it pretty much shows what the addition will be to your annual O&M budget for each CIP. So if you were to go with option A, by year 14, 15, you're starting to incur in some costs from the well 17, about 75,000 in chemicals. By year 15, 16, then with your well 8 will be finished on 14, 15, but the media should last for a year, so you shouldn't need to replace it until 15, 16. But by that time, you're starting to incur a $230,000 a year cost to replace that media, and so forth. So every well has, whenever they come online, it has an associated chemical or media cost, and that needs to be recuperated through rates. So under your option A, by year 5, you need to add you need to recuperate about $1.5 million a year in fees with your rates. And just to give you a perspective, I think your entire water budget department right now is about 1.1 million. So that's doubling it in 5 years, doubling the budget in 5 years under that option A. And then under the option B, which eliminates two of the projects out of the equation, which throws them out into the next funding cycle, into the 6 to 10 year cycle, and distributes the costs more evenly. The year after year 5, you're adding to your own budget about $860,000. Starting again on year 14-15, adding $81,000 and going up to $862,000, and that's by adding the treatment on well 8, the treatment on well 13, treatment on well 14, and the treatment on well 17 and 18. And now, we know we were going to borrow some monies from the TCP fund, so that's why I put that in, and I know Jose touched on that briefly on the funding sources that were available for these projects. The TCP fund has about $9 million on it, but not all $9 million are cash or available, and there were some maturity dates on some CDs, and we were worried about whether there'd be enough monies to be loaned to that because of those maturity dates. But I didn't put in here the tables. I think they're in here how the TCP at the end, how the TCP funds are expended. But there is no issues with the cash flows or how those funds are matured to withdraw. I think the total expenditure are $441, and at the end of the year cycle, of the 5-year cycle, your balance is about $4.5 or $4.6 million on the TCP fund. Should still allow for more, maybe another 2 more wells for TCP treatment. So those are sort of a summary. Any questions or any?
Is that well 18, that's gonna be the new well, have you get it?
That well 18 is the new well 10.
By
Mhm.
the park,
Right.
They were basically,
Well 13 is the one with the second highest TCP.
Well 13, well 14.
No, that was the first.
Yeah,
First.
Well 13
Well,
second.
Mm-hmm.
Because I guess you guys were talking about connecting them also.
Right. This first phase, this first 5-year cycle on well 13 addresses the arsenic, and so the plan is once you have water from, you to draw something?
Oh,
I was just saying that we get, the money for well 18, make sure we put a pipeline,
Because 18 will be on the stop side, 14 would go to 8.
no, but 13 to,
Yeah,
Yeah, 13 to 18.
yeah.
that's why wells 12 and 15, they're pushed back because it make more sense to go centralized where our Achillean Park is, where well 10 is, and convey the water there from wells 13, from well 17, from well 18, and then you add on to that well 12, and you treat them all for TCP there. Now your arsenic and manganese are gone because you have 3 out of the 4 wells have treatment, so your levels, even though well 12 may be high, but by the time it's blended with the other 3, it'll be pretty low, and then you treat them all together for TCP. You do a one large centralized system rather than at each well, because when you start adding manganese and arsenic and TCP into the well site, it starts getting very cramped in there, and in some of the wells there's not a space just to begin with. So
So I put up here well 15, 17, and 18, just to re-emphasize. We're talking about, the possibility of abandoning well number 15. So if we abandon well number 15 because of costs associated to address 2 of the constituents, manganese and arsenic, then of course these are 2 new wells, so we need to make up the difference that this well was producing with well number 17, and then you always want to have additional capacity, so that's why we're already looking at well 18, because if we do this, eliminate this one, then we're back not quite in the same position, but we need more breathing room.
Going back.
Yeah, we need breathing room. And so the breathing room is to build another well, which in this case would be well 18. So that's why these two are incorporated, because we're already thinking that way ahead, because that's what's needed. And you have a backup, because keep in mind, the California Department of Public Health, when they do their calculations, they basically say, you need to meet capacity if your biggest producing well is offline, something happens to that well, okay? So that's what they incorporate in the numbers. And if you don't, so technically, we can meet our demands, but not through their formula, because what they're saying is, you need to make sure that you can produce enough maximum daily demands and peak demands if your well, your highest producing well, is offline, okay? So this will give us that cushion that we need, plus it's great planning, because it's needed, and where well 18 is being planned, you know, we're going to do test wells and all that, but that's supposedly where well number 10 in the past had issues with, not necessarily with arsenic, it was more of nitrates and sulfuric, what was it called that?
H2S.
So, yeah,
Oh,
H2S, yeah.
So, yeah.
So it's the sulfur.
Hydrogen sulfide,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, but keep in mind that in that particular area, you guys used to have a basin there where all of this runoff water was going. And so you can imagine, so that could have, and it was a shallow well, so that's probably one of the reasons why you had some nitrate issues. So, we're going to be, what's nice about that area too is that you have that little canal that's going by there, that it's the MID. So, it's, you know, you try to take advantage of some of that, you know, natural filtration that's happening there with clean water. Okay, any questions? I know it's a lot of information, but we certainly wanted to, you know, go over it a couple of times. The list that you have in the back, it says option A, option B, that kind of just gives you a bigger, all-inclusive picture of all the different costs. You know, we didn't cover the smaller ticket items, but all the smaller ticket items on them. So in case you have any questions on those. So just to clarify for well 18, well 8 and 14. So why don't you draw the 14 and 8 so that they understand how, you know, you do you bring in the pipeline and then.
I think I actually have one.
Okay.
I can do it over there.
Oh,
Or here.
yes.
Well, 14 is right there. Do we all know where 14 is? Yes. Okay. I know you do. So you have 14, and the best way to, and 8 is over clear on the other side of the city here. Now, this area is developed, so the best way to get to it is to go up to Olive, and then go down to Hayden with the pipeline like that. So.
And then the actual water is going to be manifold over. Show me where.
Oh, yeah, well, you'll have it, the pipes themselves, if you have well 8, after it's treated, the water, going into the system, going into your system here. Then well 8 will have the ability to just tap directly into that and blend it into the tank and go out. And then it'll also be stubbed for future treatment when you have more vessels in there to actually treat that well at that other side.
So do you guys all understand that? So
Now,
yeah,
well, I know my drawing's terrible.
You either, right?
It looks terrible.
He's just an engineer.
But now, and I know maybe Alfonso you want to do that, but now you have well 8, and then there's going to be vessels, and I'm not, is it 2, 4?
Right now there's two trains, 4 vessels.
Okay.
So each train is 2 vessels, yeah.
So there's 4 now?
4 now.
So these are going to treat well 8. So in the future, when you got 14 in here, you're going to need 4 more of these things most likely. So that's why you need physical space for these facilities.
But let
Which
me
you-
but let me clarify, so that I want you guys to make sure you guys understand. The idea here is that, because the concern is that well number 14 has high elevated, more than anywhere else, TCP.
TCP, yes.
So the idea is to bring it and blend it on the other side to lower that TCP amount, but you're not eliminating TCP completely. And why?
But you're bringing the level down.
But you're bringing the level down.
Yeah.
And so, but it's plugged and ready to go, so that when you have that magic number that they're gonna give us, you have a target, then you address it, and then you have the space for other vessels to put in, and everybody should be okay with it.
So
We
basically,
don't have the funds to just go ahead and directly start addressing TCP completely, because we don't even have a target. I just wanna make sure you
Yeah, I
understand.
understand.
yeah, as you have 14, and as the high TCP goes, we'll say we'll go into a tank where that's treated, water that came out of 8 has no TCP, so you have real high and no TCP, so you have a blended TCP of some sort. Go into,
But it'll be ready to go.
your system.
And that's how it's programmed out.
And I was saying, if we get the money for 18, make sure it has a connection to send 13, because 13 is
Oh,
the
yeah,
second.
yeah,
Yeah, same thing on the other, yeah, on the south side.
I have a question.
Question over here. Great.
I understand the components of TCP are heavier than water itself. Is the pipeline that's going to take the water to 8 for treatment going to take that into consideration? Otherwise, if you're just taking it off the top, 14 is going to have far higher levels of TCP, and it's not going to blend.
Okay, so her question is that, her comment is basically, you know what, TCP it has heavier side of things. I don't know, you want to answer that?
Well, the concentrations, the TCP is dissolved in the water. It's not a particle,
It's
it's
not a
something that is,
suspended
it's not that
solid.
is dissolved. So when you add water that has 100 parts per million of TCP with water that has 0, because the water coming out of 8 will have 0, will be non-detect, will come out of the code. So you add an equal amount of, an equal stream, or 100 in an equal stream at 0, and you end up with a stream that has 50. So you're cutting it down in half, just by blending it on the tail end. And later on, when you want to address treatment, depending on what level of treatment you want to address it to, then you may end up treating that double stream, and or a portion you run it through a treatment, and a portion you don't, to bring it down, let's say, to 25 or to whatever the state ends up giving us the limit with. But yeah, the water, once you blend the clean water, the water that is treated on well 8 with the water from well 14, they'll blend into an uniform solution.
So you take it into consideration.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And the tanks have things that make them, make them, so to speak.
So when we blend streams, we're running through what is called static mixers, or just in turbulence in the
Yeah.
pipelines. They just it kind of make sure that you don't end up having a
Yeah, you
non-homogeneous.
don't want to have a shortcut from bad water to go out, not yet. Understood, yeah, we understand the point.
Good question.
Yeah, that's a really.
Any other questions?
So at the moment, that treatment for TCP hasn't been working. I mean, you just want to blend it together, kind of cheat the system. I'm saying to use.
Yeah, no, wait, let me explain a little bit further. Okay. So, well 8, there's going to be treatment, okay, and it's going to be brought down to non-detect.
Zero. No
Zero,
zero.
none whatsoever. Well 8, all right? But well 14 is one of the highest, wells that we have with TCP. So the idea is to go ahead and bring, and by the way, well 8 has, a T in order to bring in that pipeline and connect. But we don't want to blend, we don't want to treat well 14 at this point, because we really don't have, 1, funds, and 2, we really don't have a target, okay? And so the idea is to bring it over to well 8 and blend it so that you basically reduce that amount throughout the entire system.
They'll treat it.
Yeah,
Without
but,
it,
but
then
2
it might-
years from now, or 3 years from now, when there is we have to treat it. Now we have a maximum contaminant level, you have an MCL, and it'll just be a matter of putting in some more vessels and you're home free.
So you're saying that we could actually just, once 8 is set up, you can just run a pipe to it and connect it and go for it, right?
That's it.
Right now,
The
right?
vessels are there.
Well, whenever the vessel, right now, the site is ground, so whenever
I
it's
understand.
constructed, yes.
Once it's constructed, just put in line 14 right now, and you can blend it right now.
Yes.
So whatever this comes out to, whatever it is, kind of,
You just change the, you have the ability to just divert.
yeah,
If you wanna go in the tech or you wanna go have it treated, then we'll have it treated.
yeah, but right now you put it
We
into,
put it into the mix.
yeah.
The land where you're gonna put the vessels, is that owned by the city already?
That's
Well,
that
that's the one, the property that we
That's that
bought
little
from
piece,
foster funds.
off of,
So you get one from us off 8.
Yeah,
Yes,
so
yes,
this is that eight.
that's
Okay, that's
it.
what I'm saying, so
It
those
is.
vessels would just
Yeah.
move up there?
Yeah, there's already 4 of them gonna be there now with the project,
No,
and then just be another.
I didn't realize when we were down over there. that
Oh, I'm
was
sorry,
actually
yeah,
over
we-
8
we-
area.
No,
I
I'm
thought you
not
had-
engineer design.
Like me, you were gonna put it right in the middle of the school.
Right in the middle of some subdivision.
Here we go.
There you go. Thanks,
This is
Jose.
easier land available than at school, you
Yeah,
know?
all of
I mean, School's pretty expensive to move. Guys right here.
That'd be real hard.
Yeah,
There you
All
go.
right, now we're good.
thank you.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no,
Okay.
it's clear now.
I have another
Questions, yes, please.
I understand the powers that may are looking at what we are going to consider acceptable for the standards for TCP. And we're looking at that to target it. But I also understand that the state of Hawaii has already come up with their own. And I think of this very small little island that it's really necessary for them to have water that it has established standards. And I'm kind of wondering, it's an arbitrary question, but I'm kind of wondering why we haven't done that here in California.
Good question. I don't know the answer.
I think regular state rate, they're working on it. And there's a number pretty close.
There's speculation out there that we hear, but it's, at this point, it's,
Do we know what the Hawaii number is, just out of curiosity?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
.06 part per
Million or billion?
Probably billion.
billion?
Billion, I
1
think.
billion, yeah.
And the speculation is somewhere close to that you're hearing for California?
I hear like 25, isn't that what it is?
Yeah, 25 is what they're talking
Somewhere in there, but it's, really,
Yeah.
Between 15 and 25, I
they
think.
may come out at 5 and may come out at 50,
Yeah.
or something else.
Who knows?
No, and keep in mind that these MCLs do change over time, as they
Oh,
start,
that's
you know,
right,
they're doing
yeah.
testings, they're doing, you know, trials, they're doing all
Yeah.
kinds of stuff. Because remember, arsenic used to be 50
Yeah.
parts per billion, now it's at 10. So, and that's why this planning process is very important, because then you will basically, you know, start addressing those. And then in addition to that, technology, as technology advances, there seems to be, you know, a correlation between that and regulatory limits. And so then you're like,
There's more plausible ways of actually improving the quality without bankrupting.
good questions. Any other questions? So again, what we would like to give direct recommendations from our stakeholders is, okay, what do we recommend to our elected officials, our policymakers, our council?
Does everybody look at the page of the cost of each item in the back there? I mean, you guys, I'm sure you got, somebody looked at it, some may not have.
And I want to say that, you know, we went through this with the fine tooth comb many times, okay? And so the numbers that we're presenting, and the items that we're presenting, we feel very confident, and it's actually been looked at by several different engineers. And so, you know, we wanted to give you some really great information. Any questions on the items that Paul mentioned in the back? Feel free to take a minute and look at those. Again, those correlate with the PowerPoint that we presented.
Yeah, but not everything,
Yeah, we didn't cover every area.
the wells are there, but the other costs on the bottom, like the utility trust, computers and.
Right, I only put in there what's called major projects.
Yeah.
The rest, out of the $13 million that I listed there, or the 13.81 million, I think only $500,000 of those, or 600,000, were minor costs over 5 years. So,
Yeah, why don't we go over?
I have one question, and it's probably Cody and Jose question more than you folks. On item 13, emergency contingency allowance, you put ongoing. Are you saying that every year you're gonna be putting depreciation? I mean, before you know it, in 10 years you're gonna have a whole lot of money saved up,
$2 million.
Yeah, that's a question I have is, I can understand having contingency for the first, the second, and the second year maybe, because we're going to be having rates where we're going to be taking down our debt and then building up reserves, which can be building the rates. But you're adding, in addition to that, I can understand maybe once you got a couple of years under your belt, nothing major happens. I kind of question. I can understand maybe the first and the second year, for 13 and 14, but not ongoing. That's kind of there's no cost or total cost to it.
The depreciation ratio that our rate consultant's considering is not 100% covered. She's starting with 30% the first year and up to 50% by the 5th year. So she's not reflecting 100% of depreciation on her rates, and therefore we feel that if something breaks out there that we're not aware of at this point, we want to be able to address it. We want to be able to have the funds to address an emergency.
Yeah.
Right now there's no reserves.
Yeah, and I know we've had this conversation. I can understand having contingency fund year 1, year 2, but after a while it becomes a moot point because unless you have used up the money, it keeps building on itself, which is not, it's not, because I think that one really needs to be looked at by the folks here.
Yeah.
I understand.
It's really it comes down to.
This is ongoing and doesn't even give you the total cost for contingency. In 10 years, how much have you got?
Well, this would only
5 years.
stop at that 5-year point.
Yeah, but it says ongoing, it doesn't say 5 years.
No, it's supposed to start for
Okay.
5
It's
years.
only-
It's supposed to start for 5
You can
years.
only incorporate in 5 years.
Yeah, so that's the number I
We
think.
can cut it in half, 100,000 a year for 5 years. That'll be $50 million.
This is not, there's not a right or wrong answer.
There's not a right, no, I'm not saying there's a right or wrong answer, there isn't.
Yeah,
But
we
I
put it in there.
question,
Yeah.
in 5 years, $2.5 million. Or how much does it come out to?
$1 million.
2 million,
In 10 years,
2 million in 5 years.
No,
That's
$1 million. It's $1 million.
it's a million.
It's $1 million in 5 years.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the only question I have, I'm not gonna,
Yeah,
the committee can decide what they think it is, but it's ongoing, and you're gonna be building this, and then the depreciation gonna be building up too. So you're gonna have money, and you're gonna also have, in the rates, I am sure the rate's gonna include wiping out in deficits and building up reserves. So you're almost triple gaining this, and so you guys may wanna look at that one. I won't make the decisions because I get to have a final vote anyway, but.
Right.
But I guess the question is, how does that number get calculated, right? How do we know that 200,000, at least even for year 1 and 2, is the right amount, right? There has to be some kind of a rationale behind this, like how many, what the project is, and we have to kind of identify what might be some of those major contingencies, right, that might happen, and then base our estimate on that. So over the span of 5 years, you might say, what's the worst case scenario? This well goes down, these vessels break down.
Yeah, these things can happen. Our pipelines, with the exception of a small area, are fairly new.
80%.
Yes, they can break. Anything can break. And it looks like we're going to be doing, there's not a whole lot left that can really go wrong other than a generator going out or something like that, If you have a major hit, then we're going to have a major hit. But,
How much are water pumps? I mean, they're,
Well, the thought process behind this was to, you like to, you go by probabilities and you try to go by
Right.
the worst case scenarios. So for instance, one of those areas, and the state water, the San Joaquin Valley Air Pollution Control District, has been, pretty aggressive these days. And as you notice that our generators, all of our generators, our backup generators and stuff like that, they're pretty much, they're still functioning, but they could be, regulatory agencies can come in and say, hey, that's it, do that. So, but again, this is a call that the group can make in terms of what the probabilities are, and if you want to go with half, but the thought process was to look at all of the things that could possibly not go all the way.
And it's about 20% of your going in. The present.
And then also, how much is, we didn't have a breakdown, I was sort of hoping, how much is engineering costs and all that, have they been? Because remember, we had that discussion about Kenya Jenks putting 30% in engineering costs, which is awful high. I haven't seen these numbers adjust to what we thought was going to be more accurate number. So, I thought we would at least get that, look at it, but it didn't come through, it came in.
Yeah, that's true.
So there seem to be two open-ended kind of things right now. One is, getting the right number for the contingency cost, and I think there has to be some kind of, data set that we consult as opposed to just kind of, guessing offhand. And the second is, I guess, what you asked about the engineering breakdown, so basically more detailed. But I actually had a question about the O&M budget. I heard that it was $1.1 million per year, right?
That's what it is right now.
Is it right now?
that's about what it is right now.
And that's basically, we cover that by the rates that,
We are bringing in enough to cover the direct operational costs, but not the depreciation at this
Okay.
point.
my question was, I see a column here that says what the funding source is going to be of various of these projects, and I see some of these mentioned, called out as rates, right? So I just wonder if there's an overall sense of, whether this 5-year plan is going to end up tapping this much money from the rates, and option B is going to end up tapping this much money. Do we have that?
Right, so the ones that say rates, it could say rates or reserves, but it's funds that are funded by the ratepayers, where the TCP fund is the money that, the ratepayers even fund, or the water
TCP
development fund.
exists, right? The ratepayers don't need to contribute to that.
Right, then those are monies that, the TCP fund is money that the city has.
Yes, yeah, so I was basically coming at, what do the city residents end up paying in these two plans over the span of this plan? I mean, that's the, one of the key questions, right?
If you look at the bottom of that table, it says from TCP fund.
Yeah,
There's one that says from drinking water state revolving fund,
right,
from CDBG,
yeah,
and then from reserves.
So
That's what
reserves.
the reserves.
okay.
Yeah, that's what we end up. The ratepayers will end up paying.
So based on Grupo's comments, okay, we need to look at those numbers once again, and basically, if Kennedy Jenks used a higher percentage, if they used 30% contingency, or 30% contingency versus 20%, we can make some adjustments to that.
And also, and I don't see it in here, although I guess I do, but it says pipeline and treatment. Well, I guess you did adjust that, didn't you?
Yeah, we did adjust those, we
That
didn't
you-
do all of them.
Yeah, you didn't do all of it, but you did adjust that one. Because it went from 1.4 to where it should be now.
Yeah.
More realistic.
Yeah, we forgot to mention the other ones. We did adjust some, but not all of them. That was just a mix-up on our end.
Another thing might be helpful to the folks, and I know, because everything's gonna base on how much people can write the check for it. Because the council's gonna be tomorrow.
Yes, correct.
So, if you folks kind of get an idea what you want to do, they can give that direction to staff tonight, they can quickly contact the consultant, come back with a number and say, it's not exact, but this is more, ballpark number, so you can kind of move things around if you have to, we can do that. But I think we need to at least do something as soon as possible now, because one of the things is we also need to set up some sort of a plan, that way when we apply for, the drinking water,
SRF.
yeah, at least they know more or less, because they definitely want to know what our plans are. What have we done with our rate 6 months ago? What do we plan to do within the next 6 months? So if we kind of come up with ideas, we can kind of give them an idea of what we're looking at too. That'll help our application too,
I got a question on the water meters. Didn't we just go 100%? We just put in 100% water meters?
What happens is that the water meters have to be replaced over time because they have a life cycle. Okay, then they basically start malfunctioning. So you have to constantly replace them.
We have a 15-year life.
Yeah. So
What is the 100% water meter?
the city is 100% water metered. Okay, so
Okay, so we know exactly
Yeah.
how much we go to give up.
But meters, whether they be industrial meters, whether they be residential, commercial meters, they only have a certain life cycle. And so after 15 years, at least on the residential side, you have to replace them because they malfunction. So meters are replaced every year, and so it just depends on when the big wave comes of the first batch that you put in, 14 years ago. You got to start planning on replacing those. And you have the X and U's, which are those little transmitters. That's in addition to the meter.
Yeah.
And that, we would love to have, a system here where it's fixed base and you just, everybody around town, you don't even have to drive around. Right now, our system is the one you drive by and you get them. You get all the meters.
And just so you know, the meter replacement is pretty accurate. Because at 20 times, we're looking at about 35 meter replacement a year. Which, yeah, we probably won't replace them for sure, but, eventually they'll start going out. So.
This budget here is basically to, how can I, you mentioned maybe he can reduce some, for instance, the ongoing contingency type thing. If we approve something like this, if we go, then the rate obviously is going to be higher.
Well,
and so maybe we can go a little lower figures and maybe make it more palatable for the citizens.
Well, this is why my suggestion to you folks was to pick what you think, because Dave and I were not going to vote on this. We're not going to, because it's for you to come up with what you think is the best plan, and then call and then say, hey, give us an idea of rates and look at the rates and versus, and then make your adjustments, whatever you think you need, and figure out what you guys think is urgent, not urgent right now, and that's what you guys got to look at right now.
Right. Because, some of these things, if you have that money there, you're going to be tempted to spend it, type thing. If you don't have it, you just look for other ways to have that.
Well, that's what we wouldn't be doing our job if we presented you with the just one option. We had to give you different options, and not present you with one option where everything is hinky dory first, second year, and then here comes third year, and then you get eaten up, because everything on an emergency basis costs you way more.
Absolutely.
So we're not asking for Cadillac either. We're just, but more heads is better than one or two. And so what Paul's saying is, okay, it really comes down to probabilities and risk. Okay, so factoring all those things in, okay, do we need to have $1 million at the end of 5 years? Is that money going to be spent? Can we, can we go with $500,000 and it looks like the probabilities are not there that a lot of things are going to need replacement, and that's fair.
I think what he's saying is, let's see what the consultants have to
Yeah,
say
but
about.
the consultants can't
the
give you any numbers
Yeah.
until you
Unless you give
give
them
your
the-
shopping list and say, here's what we, as the citizens
Well,
want.
I think in terms of the shopping list, it's just option A and option B, right? So in order
No,
to.
you can move things around, you can make
Yeah,
it,
yeah.
if this committee wants, you can create option C or D, or
Yeah.
whatever you want,
No.
it's up to you folks.
What I meant is that I think right now the picture is a little bit incomplete because we don't have that, what's the final impact to the ratepayer?
Exactly.
Right? We only have an overall figure, we know the O&M budget and we have, 280K per year, but that doesn't really hit home, right?
Well, that's correct, and we can't give you that number until we get at least two direction or one direction. Because
The
once you
option
give
A
us,
and option B should have come out with rates on it.
Absolutely, right,
You
because
know,
it's just
trying
a
to-
division
Yeah.
going from
That
the
way,
reserves
yeah,
into how
moving
many
numbers around it.
ratepayers you've got.
well, let me just say this, every time we ask for a
Scenario.
scenario, we have to pay money to make that happen. And if it was easy, we really didn't need a consultant, we could just do it ourselves. This takes some time for them to do everything they gotta do in order to punch out some numbers. So if what I'm hearing if you wanna know what the cost will be for option A and option B as it stands, we can give you that. And if you ask for another option C,
Well, I think if they done that, then we could look at that, and then if we agree on one or the other, then fine, but if we wanted to piecemeal something from A to, a little bit from A to B and B to A, or whatever the case may be, then there you go, you've got your numbers already, am I
That-
right or wrong?
if that's the direction, that is really easy.
Well, that's just what I'm,
Well, the reason I think the city didn't want to bring this to you now is we wanted the committee to know what options they have, what needs to be done, so the committee can, we don't want to bring.
yeah, but we're getting in a rush thing here now.
No,
Because-
No,
Yeah.
no rush.
Because
All right.
that,
no, nobody says, you don't have to make a decision tonight to send it to
No.
council. You can say, we want to do a blend this thing, or we're going to create this, or you can say, you know what, if we do this, what are the rates? Give us the cost, and then we can bring that to you.
yeah, that's what I
And
want
then,
to
when
see
you
now,
got
the
it-
money, because I'm looking at our side,
Yeah.
And
being
then-
the residents, on what we're gonna get.
And then, whatever you choose, the committee chooses,
Right.
you can come back and give different options, and then if you don't like it, you can say, well, do this, and send it back and say, well, we're.
We all know what the needs are in the
Yeah.
city.
Yeah, well, not really. So that's what it's
Well,
our job to present
close
to
to
you.
it.
So let me give you,
Everybody knows.
maybe you do know a little more, but let me just say this. Again, the whole purpose of this is to be open and transparent.
Yeah.
So what we wanted to do was to present you down to the detail, the actual CIP list of what would then be in the rates. Because if I gave you the rates and then give you these secondary, I didn't really give you a chance to see exactly what I was all
No,
going
you
to
got something to start
Yeah.
with there.
So you have something to start with. So we're in good shape.
Yeah.
So based on here, one item that was brought up by one of our members here is, hey, this annual contingency, we should look at that. I think that should be lowered or every other year or whatever.
Because another thing is, and a lot of things can happen, rates, and at the end of the, whatever the project build out, costs can be pretty close to it, no matter how you work it out. But you can move things around, say, we want to do this first, this and that, and you can adjust those too.
Yeah, we gotta have a reserve, like you say, you got generators and all these that for power goes out, you gotta bring them up. And if they're all in that kind of shape, you never know.
What is
You gotta have that.
200,000 equal to, in ratepayers paying, out of pocket? Does that equal to $1, $2, or?
Yeah, it'd be good to have those numbers. Once we have those numbers, I think,
I'm sure someone's taking these notes.
After
Yeah.
5 years, we're still gonna have TCP money left over.
Yeah. But we can always, whatever the questions are asked, they can ask
Yeah,
the
we could certainly.
the consultant, they can come in and says, for example, for every 100,000 or every $500,000 or $1 million, this is what it adds to, what's what it adds to, And that can help you kind of adjust it too, But we have to start somewhere,
Oh, yeah, that's.
No, very, very good questions. Yeah, absolutely.
I have a question.
Sure.
In regards to the public rates, nobody's gonna wanna see their rates go up, but nobody's going to want to do it at the cost of our public health either. I think we would all rather pay a little bit more than feel like we could get really sick if we don't.
Well, we know it has to go up.
Yeah, we know there's gonna be an adjustment, but the question now becomes, this is why we have different sectors of the community here, is it's good to have a Cadillac, but if you can't drive it, then what use having a Cadillac? Can you do it with a Chevy, you know?
Right.
And that's a decision the folks here gotta make, you know?
Right, and you know, when people can take a lot in small increments.
And that's exactly what this is.
That's what we're after.
Yeah.
This is what they're after.
Two other statements. Well, number one, if there is money, okay, if your fund reserve suddenly, you know, grows and you're not spending it all, the council can always lower but can't raise, okay? So they don't have to exercise the third or fourth year rate increase if there's money in there, and that's up to you. That's just comment, okay? And that's just comment. The second thing is the California Department of Public Health is tasked to operate under the law and the NCL limits, and so they will never allow us to to not meet Title 22 drinking standards to the public. Okay, so I just want to make sure that at this particular, even though we would like nothing to be in our water, that's just like there is, and so what you don't want is, because you know you walk outside and you're breathing and so forth, you got particulate matter. I mean, that's why there's regulatory agencies that are looking after our health. They tell us if you're below this, you're good. Even if you drink it every day, all day, for 100 years, and you're okay, you know.
But you know, the citizens of Livingston, you can see how many are here. They don't really recognize the whole issue of public health. They just see their rates going up. But if they knew that we're just following the standards of the state, I think it's easier to swallow because you're looking out after our
People will be involved when they hear about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hope so.
But the idea behind it, what we wanted to do is, with the committee here, for different folks, is to at least have a good groundwork and out of the hands of the politicians, and let the community says, here's what we have, you know?
Good. I have one question. I'm not sure how either one of these plans, when they're implemented, how will it either hinder or embrace growth, either for the business or for residential?
Oh, let me answer that for you. It's definitely not going to hinder, okay? Because you're addressing the two topics that are of most importance. We all know that, you know, if you really want to spur economic development in the community and so forth and so on, you know, you need to have treatment and capacity. And that's what we're dealing with right now. Those are our number one and two. Capacity and treatment.
So
Treatment and capacity.
It will embrace it over the period of that same.
And let me make clear that when there is new development, there's impact fees. And so those people who are coming into the community are going to pay their impact fees to the system, okay? And they're going to pay whatever the rates are in order to get treated water. They're going to receive that. So they have to pay capacity and treatment.
So it's helpful for the city as well. Yeah.
As long as the capacity's there.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It sounds like.
If there's no capacity, we can't talk.
There's not much you do about it.
Yeah, gotta have capacity, you know.
So this another question, the annual emergency contingency budget allowance we're talking about, the 200,000? As that fund builds, and hopefully it builds and we'll have the emergencies, does that money have to be spent on city water improvement projects?
No.
Can it be transferred to a general fund? Can it be
No.
transferred to something else? That's what I was getting to. So it does have to be spent on
Yes.
water improvement projects?
Yes.
That's a big difference.
Exactly. It has to be water related, absolutely.
But you can reduce the amount if you choose to reduce the amount.
Oh, absolutely. And this is where the community also has several opportunities to address these line item budgets. Okay, when the council and staff is presenting the budgets every year, well, you know, you got mid-year and then, you got the year and the mid-year. Or it doesn't even have to be during that time frame. You can always, you know, bring that up, hey, you know, what's the line item for this and so forth. The amount, the money that's in there, can only be used for water-related stuff. And so, any direction provided by the public and then ultimately acted on by the elected officials, that's how the money gets spent. But it can't be used for anything other than the water enterprise fund. And by the way, that's the case with all of the funds with the exception of the general fund. The general fund, you can use money in any account because there is no strings attached, but you can't be using enterprise funds, you know, to pay other enterprise funds.
And I do want
They
to
can
add,
loan, but they can't.
I do want to add that this figure has been on our budget for the last 2 or 3 years. We've been assigning about 150,000 to 200,000 for unknown repairs, emergency fixes.
Have you been able to put any of it away?
Yeah. And actually, our former public works director made some comments that wasn't even enough to have on the budget. He would recommend something higher, but that's just additional information.
But very good questions.
So you've got several things every year that can be moved around. There's
Yeah.
$400,000 in year 5 that can be moved around for tank painting. I mean, it's really shoot.
Yeah, that's right.
You can. I mean, you can move it up, you can move it back.
That's right.
So, I think, without, you don't have to give details if you're not able to, but consultants usually, they make their money by not finishing projects. Okay? I mean, that's pretty much a given, right? So each time we go back to them and say, we'd like to see another scenario, because I agree with what I'm hearing here, okay? How much are they charging us per pop as a city?
For every scenario? We know what it is. It's like, what, $2,000-3,000 bucks?
Probably more like 5,000 to 6,000.
Yeah.
Okay. Because you're exactly right. I think you're to the point, what you were saying is if you knew what the rates were for 5 and 10 years, and you know that there's almost $2,500 to play with in here, or excuse me, $2.5 million to play with in the first 5 years,
Yeah,
that's a lot of money, especially for the citizens here in town.
that's right.
And to your point, it's very well noted, small increases, first one, people can swallow that. Try to hit them right off the bat, we're gonna be right back to where we were 3 years ago, for crying out loud.
Yep.
And it's gonna be difficult, but to know what those two rates would be, you know, I don't know if we're talking $20 or $40, or, you know, or what the difference amount is, or it's $40 or $80.
Yeah.
So, you know, I wouldn't recommend spending a whole lot of money, but I would recommend trying to get a ballpark on those two figures, so you could go through here, which you can do fairly quickly. And again, like I said, whether it's a reserve fund or painting the tanks, and, you know, we just went through painting the tank. I went $450,000 back in Louisiana to paint. You know why? Because they couldn't get anybody to spend $400,000 to climb to the top of the damn thing. You know? I mean, that's the truth. I mean, everybody's afraid to do it. So that's what they charge us.
That's right.
How many residents are there going to be affected by this? How many
Everybody.
houses?
Oh, everybody's.
I know, but what's the figure?
Number.
How many?
How many households?
Well, there's like 3,500.
3,500 customers on the system.
They would all be affected by this.
Yeah, everybody.
There's not a
35.
single regular.
Yeah, well, I know, but I just wanted to know how many.
Yeah, about 3,500.
So, well,
Yeah.
We have that many accounts?
Our calculations,
Total water.
you know, kind of, you know,
I guess I'm looking at 3,000 residential accounts probably, and there's
yeah, they
500.
have water.
Business.
Business.
And then you have commercial.
Yeah,
That's all we have out of 14,000 population?
yeah, 3,000,
yeah, keep in
3,000
mind,
homes times
That's about
4.
right.
Or 5.
Four people home?
well, that's the number that we use
Yeah.
when thinking about.
Some got more, some got less, but, you know.
That doesn't seem like it should be more than 35.
But you know what, tomorrow go count all the homes.
I have nothing else to do.
There you go.
Yeah, I'm retired.
And businesses.
Yeah.
Start with the map, right?
There's only 3,000 people when I moved here.
Well, what I'll do is, given the directions, I'll basically say, okay, given these numbers, what is that
Yeah, whatever, if it takes more meetings to get this thing down, to get it ready to go before the council and then the public, then.
Yeah, oh, by the way, there is no set date, going to the
Well, we
council.
know it has to go up, and you keep
Oh,
putting
everybody
it
knows
off,
that.
and putting it off.
The only thing I was saying was to give kind of a rough idea, I'm not saying that's where it's gonna
Yeah.
go, is so that when the city puts its application for the grant,
Yeah.
yeah, that we can kind of say,
Right, you got some numbers
that
that
we
this is
may
where
be
we're gonna
collecting this
go.
rates in 6 months, we know that
Right.
within 6 months, something's gonna happen anyway, so
Okay.
that's what I was trying to do,
I think the committee needs to look at how the rates will be orchestrated. And the reason I say that is when we increased them last time, what was it, 3 years ago? Go Paul, was it 3 years?
Yeah, around there, yeah.
3, 4 years ago?
3 or 4 years ago, yeah.
I had no problem with paying the rates, and I live in a new development. So the home at that point is 10 years old, so it was like 6 years old, so the meter should not have had a problem. In January, when I got my bill, it had increased a lot because I was told they were basing it on the amount of water that I used. And I believed that. And so they told me that I'd gone from like, I don't know, it started in January. So the bill in December had been, they told me I used something like 15 gallons, like 1,500 gallons, something like that. And it went up to like 40,000 in January. And then by May, they told me I used 0.
That's a
So-
bad meter.
So to answer your question,
She needs a
the,
replacement.
My point is, you need to orchestrate how the
Sure,
rates are
sure.
developed well.
so one of the things that we took into account was we looked at what the average, usage of all the residents are using. And the number that was pretty close was about 80% of the people used about 25,000 gallons. Right now, your water is allocated at your base is 35,000 gallons, okay? And so, again, this is for the committee to consider. Our recommendation is that we shoot for that 80% mark, which is about 25,000 gallons, and not the 35.
Right.
That way, at least 80% of the people, from that point forward, they would be paying in increments. And that serves two purposes. One, it initiates, shows the state and everything else that there's some water conservation there. And two, that, the more water you produce, you'll basically, if people conserve, then you build on your capacity even further. Because, you're already producing, they're not using, so then you have water allocation that you can provide to other businesses and so forth and so on. But again, that's just our recommendation, and I don't know what the good question, and that reminded me to share that other piece. So, anything-
Okay, so let me see if I understand you correctly. You're saying you're shooting for 25,000 gallons to be the first tier in a tiered rate?
the tier rate. Yeah. That would be the base.
For
That's
residents.
that's what staff is recommending.
For residents, is that business or,
No, business.
that's
I mean,
different?
That's a
some-
whole
Some
different-
business, 35,000 is not even 5 minutes use of the water use,
Yeah.
That's nothing.
That's just the business, yeah.
Which is the bulk of, in terms of where you could really make a difference.
See, here, most of your auto parts stores, and I don't mean to use it as an example, but all they have is a sink and a toilet.
Yeah.
They're not gonna use much water.
No.
And restaurants may use some water, but they're not gonna use that much water. Residents will use more water than most of your businesses, other than higher skill businesses.
Yeah, watering days.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we used to have Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
Yeah.
But those can be all sent at the,
Yeah.
recommendation at the same time, can all be adopted at once,
Yeah, because
People don't like constant changes, they like some sort of
but
order.
we were so used to that, and it worked so good.
It has to do with the fines.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
They
that.
haven't
So,
established that.
any
Well,
any
maybe that's
consensus on that? Would you guys have any thoughts on that?
I like it. myself.
Well, so you guys need
On which?
Monday, Wednesday,
Keeping
Friday.
35 or going down to 25?
25, I feel go down 25 and get the watering days in.
I like to see 25.
You know, another thing, you mentioned, request is on whatever option you choose, option A, B, C, or D, whatever, and say, now we want to know what does it cost the city per 1,000 gallons. That'll help you decide,
Yeah.
you know, after 25,000, what more do you want to charge after that, or 25, whatever it is, you know. That's also a good number to have is, what's the city's cost? If it costs the city $1.20, I don't know what it's gonna be, you know, but then we know that,
Yeah, something to go on,
that tier one could be 25,000 gallons, and after that, you're gonna pay,
so much.
you know, so.
They're aware of it, and so they know what to
Yeah.
consider.
The idea is to not do that 6,000 gallons and have, you know, those are ridiculous things, you know, be more realistic of what people really.
We want to make it simple, fair. And,
Yeah, that's
and
Well, the other thing that I think people don't know, that there's still 2 debts for water and
Those are,
wastewater.
those are small, and I think one
those
of
are white.
yeah,
They're
one
under
will be paid off
200.
this year.
They're under 200,000 and we can pay those off in a year.
Yeah, isn't one of them gonna be paid off this year?
Yeah, I already recommended that we pay it off this
Yeah,
year.
they're done, so that's nothing, I mean, that's,
Yeah, it's under 200,000 on the
those are
left
small
side.
numbers.
Wasn't you on about $1 million something?
Oh, no,
No?
those are the deficits, these are loans. So what, we're paying what, 4% on those loans?
4.5%, yeah, 4.5% on
And
those loans.
so
Yeah,
isn't it better to pay that off at 4.5% and then,
Right,
instead of earning 0.5% from the bank?
right. Change the subject just a little bit. We took care of the garbage, correct?
That's correct.
Garbage?
Why is there $1.19 on my bill
Uh-huh.
pertaining to garbage?
That's for the green waste
You might
recycling.
bring your bill in, because I don't know, I could be shooting in the
That's for the green waste container.
Well, that wasn't brought up.
Oh, for the new waste.
Yes, yes.
I think I remember something
Yeah.
about that.
It's not
That one
optional,
gotta be
it's,
charged.
the total is, what was it, 8?
No, of course you're gonna be charged. If the green waste can,
Yes, yes.
They, didn't they tell us that there'd be no charge?
I don't remember
absolutely, there was gonna be $1.19 charge.
I think so, I think they.
Yeah, I think-
Yeah, because I think it's,
Then I missed that.
that. I think there was a charge for that.
there was, that is,
Even if you didn't use it.
But it's not optional, yeah. You cannot say, I don't want that.
Yeah, I think that was.
if anybody wants a
But
second,
but
a green can, I'm selling one.
And
I
keep in
never
mind,
use it.
since you're on that subject, if for some reason you need more green waste cans, of course, there is an additional cost. But you can, Jilton basically will, you have to use it at least for 2 months, and then you can say, I don't want anyone to come pick it up. For, you know, in case you have a major project.
Yeah, I understand that.
Anyways, we'll move along. Any other water questions? No questions? Over here, over here.
I was just gonna ask, who are the consultants who go up with these figures?
Catherine Hansford is the rate consultant, and the committee recommended to the council, and council went ahead and approved her contract. Okay, so we got it looks like we got consensus on the 25,000 gallon mark. We are going to revisit the percentage here and make sure we'll work real together to fine tune rather than using the Kenny Jenks number, really look at those fine tune numbers.
Another thing wouldn't hurt to, I mean, now we have different engineers here, different set of eyes, and everybody here look. You see if these costs are realistic, you know? I mean, I don't have a problem with it, but,
We'll go over the,
it says 5 PC server and printers, 1/3 of the cost, 15,000.
that one, I don't
That's-
know what those things.
I mean, well, I do. You're saying $45,000 for 5 computers and a couple of printers and a server. I can go with it. It's extremely high, but I think these numbers are, I'm not sure what server you're gonna buy for $45,000.
Do we know what that is, Odie?
I mean, those are,
We have two servers, one for the accounting program and then one for the SCADA system, I think.
yeah, I know, but you're
Who
missing
came up with-
two.
Who came up with the numbers? Was that
Uh,
Rhonda's group or who?
Mario gave us a quote, I believe, $7,000 or $10,000 for the server.
Not this one.
I know.
Mario, or
I realize
IT guy.
that, I know, but what I'm saying is, you said $10,000 for the server, it sounds, it's a little high, but I can go with that. But here, you're saying $15,000 just for the water times 3, which is $45,000.
Right.
That's an awful high cost for a server, you know?
Well, it includes
But
the
I know
server and
computers.
some
I
computers.
can't argue with other stuff, but I can definitely tell you that $45,000 for 5 PCs and a server and a couple of printers, I'm not sure what you guys are buying, you know, even government won't pay, we are government, but,
Well, computers are about $2,500 with all the programs that we need on there.
yeah.
And then the server, about 10,000, so on the computers alone, we're spending what,
But you're,
Yeah, does this incorporate CVAX or any of the
Yeah, I mean-
entry on it?
probably the programs, probably the programs for the water side and
because it just says 5 PCs, server cost and printers, doesn't say software, you know, if it's got software in there,
yeah,
it's a different thing, you know?
Yeah.
probably need to
That's
add
a good
the
question.
software on there.
When I see that, I see hardware, I don't see software.
No, it's all included on there, yeah, software.
So why don't we make the adjustment?
Just
on
make
that
sure, you know?
and put it in there, because that way people know.
We also have printers on there too, that's another,
Yeah, printers, I mean, how many printers?
$300, $400.
Come on, how many
Come on.
folks do we have? You got 5 PCs, you're not gonna buy 5 printers.
Oh, no, probably just two.
Okay,
Yeah, but it includes software on there,
yeah.
All right, so incorporate that in the notes there, so that way
probably
we
on
know.
there, yeah.
And then some of the things, I mean, everything else is fine, compressor and jackhammer, and you guys, we got a guy that does sales all the day, he knows what the costs are, you guys need to know, I mean, everybody kind of, between now and when we come back, kind of look at this thing too, you know?
Well, actually, we would like, like Paul said, yeah, look at these further and give us some comments, and then we'll make adjustments, and then we'll meet again very, very soon here, so that we can.
get the other numbers and.
Yeah.
Do it.
Do you guys want the other numbers, based on what this may be? Just a starting point for a meeting again?
Or do you want us to,
Just say option 1, just say option A and B, just bring it in and say, here's what the cost will be.
yeah,
It just dropped down 200,000.
I'm looking at the tank painted inside, 400,000.
so David's saying that we should drop
That
the
was like
contingency.
400 total.
We can do that too.
Yeah, remember
So even after 5 years, we're still gonna have 4 point something on TCP money, if
Yeah.
there's any
emergency.
big emergency project or
Well,
something.
but keep in mind that that money, if it's not TCP related, council directed us to use that just for TCP, and so you would have to borrow it, and you would have to pay it back, and so.
We can always change that.
No, but
No, we can always change the TCP.
the reason I think it is we need these things, but we also, like and I heard from folks here, and I heard from audience, we've got to be able to put out what people can accept.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
You know,
We got a
yeah,
lot of
yeah,
poor people.
we can put everything we want, but people are not gonna accept it, and then, you know, it's gonna cost us a lot more in the long run.
No, absolutely. That's why we're having this discussion.
It's,
And,
like Mr. King said, Richie said, you know, it's better to move things around here and there to, you know, smoothen the transition too, you know?
all right, so on the contingency, why don't we, you know, I like the suggestion of basically reduce, I'd like to think, a 5 I would be okay with, because see what happens is that, you know, these things cost a lot of money. I mean, these things, I mean, you just turn around and boom, you know. So again, that money is there, you guys will be able to track, and again, we won't know until we get the rates back. Because if the rates are off the charts, then we're gonna have to reduce that even further. You see what I'm saying? So,
The painting, 400,000 for the painting inside of the tank, out of the tanks, I mean.
yeah. Tell them how much one tank costs. One tank, 1 million gallon tank, it has to be, you have to have a seismic retrofit.
It's kind of strange that when we put that tank in, it costs $700,000.
And
Additional
now,
tank
how much?
installation. Just to
Not
paint
like
it,
that.
costs a lot.
For a million, Nick? I just did one was 1.5 million.
No, but we're talking back in 1998.
Oh, yeah, probably.
Believe me, if I could go in there and paint the tank, I'm not gonna propose it.
It was-
I would
it was
do
around
it for all of you.
Because it was the TCP money that we got to put that tank in.
You gotta be certified, you gotta have.
That's just for one tank?
They gotta take the paint that is there out, they gotta sandblast it.
And they have to be in special, they have to be, have special gear, special equipment, because you're in an enclosed thing, special ventilation,
Right,
high risk.
to save a few thousand
Yeah,
lives.
that's what's scary. It cost you 400,000 for that.
It's
Did you see
a,
that? 75,000 gallon,
what
450,000.
other direction do we need?
So the painting of the tank.
Cut it different
Let's cut it down in that.
Yeah.
It's just the size of it.
Yeah, I don't know, these numbers.
Break them down some.
I mean, I'm not-
Yeah, those we don't know.
Have you been over there and looked at it? 150 to build or?
That's the painting.
80% of people use 5,000 gallons.
Hey, believe me, that one I won't argue with.
So if you, it's based on 4 people per household, you would automatically that's it. So it's 200 gallons. Whereas the average is about 180 gallons, and that's
All right. Any other direction? I think we're good. So
When do you want to meet again?
my hope is we can meet very soon, because I want to get this thing wrapped up quickly. So you guys want to meet next Monday again? Yeah, we have to give you the numbers.
Yeah, and as soon as you get the numbers, I'm sure we're gonna get them before Monday. Please send it to people. Does everybody have email?
Yeah, we can.
I'd rather be called so I can get a piece of paper
Well-
to look at it.
Mine is.
If everybody wants, if they want print out, come out to the city hall, they have to print out, or,
We'll make sure.
yes.
Right.
Yeah, we will call you, we'll let you
I'm
know.
only using 25.
I'm gonna talk to her tomorrow morning and say, hey, can you give me this stuff like in 2-3 days? Now that you got the other infrastructure all taken care of. If she says yes, then we'll have a meeting on Monday. If she says no, then I have to come up with a different date. And I will let you know.
Like 1.1.
Okay, one final, maybe final question. Whatever is settled on as our 5-year capital improvement project plan, okay, we've got to send a copy of that to CDPH, right? Because that's like one of the conditions of their,
Yes.
the inspection report that they sent.
Oh, and by the way, you know, we involved them in these, in all these things that they're doing. They were participating in the studies, they were participants in our conversations. They, of course, know because we submitted pre-applications for, and they issue the non-compliance letters to us, so they're aware of every piece.
Jose, before we leave, you said 80% of the people use 25,000 gallons of water per month,
Yes.
and that's per house. You don't mean people, you mean it's a household.
Yeah,
25,000.
also, per account.
As a household.
How many people are you saying is the average household in Livingston?
35 people.
No,
How many people in a house?
Oh, in a
3.7.
house, it varies.
Yeah, but that's
Well, what's the average, I'm saying? Is it 4 people per house? That's 200 gallons a day per person then, the way I figured it. It's more than 200 gallons a day. The average in, I don't know if it's in California or where, but I remember hearing it's less than 100, it's like 180, and that's even high.
The time of the year has a lot to do with it.
But this is average, but
Like your
200
lawn.
gallons
It
per
depends if you live
person,
in
I
LA,
think if you have a
you know,
lower threshold,
San Francisco.
encourage people to not use so much water. Then
Yeah,
you
well,
don't
that's
have-
why I like to see.
We're already reducing to 10,000 gallons.
Well, I'm saying 25,000, the way I figured it, that's 800 gallons per day. There are countries that use 5 gallons of water a day, not
I
saying
think
we
the
should do
average
that.
between 18 and 22,000, at least that's what it was a couple of years ago.
Oh, this is 25 now, well,
Yeah, well, we're
Maybe
getting
we should-
35, but
maybe
25 is.
you should have an incentive, have a lower price, have a scale,
There's
so
more
it's a
than
lower
four
price.
Yeah.
per household in this town.
Yeah.
Well, there's a
But you
tier
also have
after
to-
25.
You also
So I
have
mean,
to,
put that tier at 18 or 15, encourage people to
Yeah.
use less water.
you can set that gallon to 0, but you also have to be fair to the people that are using the water, you know?
Well, you gotta
they
pay for your infrastructure, one way or the other. If you use
You have
less
to
water,
pay for
you
the
don't cost.
infrastructure, right? But you also have to be fair to the people and the families to be able to, they gotta have some sort of the knowledge of saying, you know, this month my bill's gonna be that, then I'm not gonna have to go $100 in the summertime, you know? And we have to be realistic of what people will accept out there too. You can't.
You gotta have money to pay your bills, that's all
Yeah.
I'm saying, and if
Yeah.
you don't, if your
Well,
bills are
but
lower.
But whatever.
So just to, because there's a, it's really a decision, that happens, yeah, but let me give you an example. Let me give you an example. If you have 80% of the people using that amount,
Uh-huh.
okay, that's a number that you can coalesce around. I mean, around. Now, yeah, and then, so what Gopal's saying is that if you stay underneath that number, you know what you're gonna have to budget for and so forth. If you go over, then you have to pay extra. So bringing that number further down is really a policy decision, but, you know, if you squeeze people from both ends, woo!
Yeah, but the people that have all
The problem is,
are
people
the
will,
poorest people.
as long as you can pay for the system and be realistic with what the people really use. 18,000 could be, you know, you can say we're saving water, but at what cost to the families?
Yeah,
Well, what costs to their people, you know, it's
Because
expensive to treat all this water.
whatever gallons we set the water at is what it's gonna cost the city to give them that water anyway. There's no subsidy on it. So if you set it 25,000, people know, okay, this is my bill's gonna be for most months, and we know in summertime it's gonna go up for 2-3 months. But at least people will say, you know what, if my water bill is X for this month, and for most months it's gonna be that, I can accept that. Now, if I have to set it this way, there's no way I'm gonna hit that limit. There's no way I'm gonna hit that limit. And then now you're punishing them for, you know, you gotta work with people
The
too.
25,000 is it over average over the year?
Yeah,
Over the year, okay, so it's not good, so they're gonna be using less water
Yeah.
in the wintertime
You know,
and
okay,
more water in the
for
summertime?
example, myself, I see my water bill right now. I'm not gonna hit the 25,000 threshold, I'm not. So even if we set the threshold at 25,000, most of the water gets used outside anyway.
A lot of it does.
Okay.
so people,
I
everybody's
don't
gonna pay.
imagine a lot of people watering their lawns and, you know, so, yeah, even though you're paying $25,000, 25,000 gallons, and you're using 18 or 17, you're still gonna pay that, even though the city didn't deliver 25,000 gallons, the city's gonna undo it. And also, this is actually more fair to the people because most of your fixed costs, like labor and all that, whether the city sends out 2 million gallons in a day or 3 million gallons, most of your labor costs, all that is fixed. Yes, you're gonna have a little bit in electricity costs, you're gonna have a little bit in chemicals, but most of your fixed costs are gonna be, you know, getting a water well, a treatment system, other than the media, the other costs are gonna stay the same.
I just think you're using other people's money to fix the problem. We have to be more sustainable. We have
Yeah,
to
but
be
if
more
it's
sustainable.
25,000, that doesn't mean you're gonna use it,
No.
it's just there.
Yeah,
But you can
And all
encourage
those
people.
families, the big families that are poorest.
we tried that before with 6,000 threshold.
Yeah.
People were rioting almost, you know,
Oh,
Yeah, but you
saying,
can.
it needs to be realistic.
I know it does.
And because the city accepts charges the fees a certain, for developers, that say so many gallons per household, then we need to make sure that's what we charge people.
You gotta remember too,
But, again, it comes down.
you've got smaller lots
If you burn
compared to the old.
you don't think it.
Now they're small.
Yeah, and the city, in its infinite wisdom, set minimum lot to 7,000 square feet a few years ago.
Oh, my.
We forced people to have large lots, now we're gonna charge them extra for it?
Yeah.
60 by 160 by 120, isn't that what yours is?
Yeah, mine's 150.
Well,
But anyway, that's a policy decision, committee can make a decision.
it's more complicated.
I don't want to defend that.
I hate to see
You
that.
have to take everybody in the
These people
system.
that have big families, they don't strip the land, they're the poorest people.
You know, and even retired couples,
I mean,
they wanna water the bushes, you know, roses and stuff like that, you gotta do
so what do you do?
it. You know, so you gotta give them a little bit of leeway, you know?
You have a lot of mad people out there.
Yeah, put it in.
it's just like the garbage, too.
It's a good number.
Yeah, I think so too, because you know when I go down, it has smell. I don't even think I have a problem.
So.
I don't
so
use it.
you
Yeah.
This time of the year.
incorporate those things.
And I don't-
Summertime,
but-
I won't have a garden this year,
I
but
just wanna make sure
Well,
that
everybody, yeah.
I got a water cooler.
where, because.
Will you have a water cooler?
If the community comes out and all works, it is a
That'll take
matter of
much.
what we think we need. and
I don't know.
But if they
I
feel.
used to have one.
Burn from both
yeah,
ends.
it's sure.
Just one side. How
evaporated.
exactly, you know, and there's a lot
Yeah.
of ways you.
And maybe do one.
So we should get going there.
Well,
Yeah.
just
Okay, you guys need to give them directions. Okay, guys.